All right. So, welcome back to yet another episode of A Day in the Life of a Vincy Voter. Of course, my name is JP Shimon, your host. Now, first things first, I have to apologize, guys. You see, from the last episode, I went and made this big stinking mistake until that polls open at 7 p.m. I want to shout out my viewers and subscribers who picked up on it and pointed it out. All right, so guys, to correct that, polls actually open here on November 5th at 7 a.m. and they would run regularly up till 5 p.m. But according to what we're going to tell you about in this episode, you're going to find out that some extensions, some provisions for extensions have been made. Now, what's buzzing in the air on the ground right now, is the fact that the powers that be had to meet. They actually met this morning at about 9 o'clock to discuss and agree on the health protocols for the conduct of the elections. Yeah, I mean the actual election day, polling day. Right? Now, I understand from my source, my little fly on the wall was on the inside. The meeting was attended by the Prime Minister, the Chief Medical Officer, there was a chairperson from the church circle, most likely the Christian Council. There was also, I think somebody's trying to come in, so you might have to come forward a little bit. You know, there was also participation, of course, by the supervisor of election and her deputy, and the political parties. The NDP was also represented in that meeting this morning. Now, what basically happened at the end of the day is that everybody had to agree on what was going to happen going forward. Right? Now, last week, a release was issued by the health subcommittee that's working with NEMO, that's chaired by the CMO, and they basically made some nice little suggestions now as to how things ought to be going forward. One of those issues was that persons in quarantine and persons in isolation. Now, we have to know the difference. Is that if you're in quarantine, you're suspected of having COVID-19. If you're in isolation, it means, therefore, that you have the virus, that you've tested positive. And the people that want to make sure that you're not infecting other people. All right? So they're saying that in that release last week, basically, hi chicks, hi chickens, I know you're hearing them. You would have been allowed to come out to vote at your allocated polling station, but at a particular time, right? And under particular circumstances. Now, this morning, everybody met and had their time to say their bits and pieces on the issues. And what ended up happening is basically they decided that masks would not be mandatory on voting day, right? Everybody felt if you make the thing mandatory, man, you're going to suppress the vote, right? Because as they're seeing on the campaign trail right now, you're giving people masks, you're begging them, oh God, you put on your mask, and I not put on your mask. So they said if they force you to put on your mask, people probably won't come out to vote. And nobody wants that, right? So they're advising that you use the mask. They're also saying, yes, I know I bring my big notebook so I don't forget things and call things wrong this time around, right? They're also saying that to keep things clean and COVID pure, they're going to make sure that when you come in as a voter, you sanitize your hands before and if possible while you vote, and of course when you don't vote, right? The pencil, note I say pencil that you use, not a pen, to mark your X, they're going to make provisions to sanitize that too. So they're gonna be on hyper sanitization mode inside your polling station, right? No, hold on there. Them saying, because remember when you don't vote, you're supposed to dip your finger in the ink. You're supposed to dip your finger in the ink, right? Good. They're saying they're going to try and make sure that you dry your hands properly. Because one of the issues, right, coming out of the discussions this morning is that maybe when they sanitize your hand after you don't vote and you dip it into the ink not going to stop on your finger. And nobody wants that either, right? So they're saying they're going to make sure or try to make sure that, when you sanitize your hand, you dry them properly so that when you put your finger down into the ink, it's a dry finger that's going down in there. Now, the plus side to that is, although you're still dipping into the ink, your finger clean because it would have just been sanitized, right? Now, the next thing is that if you're going to vote and you're in quarantine, you have to have been in quarantine for more than 5 days, I'll say it again. You have to have been in quarantine for more than 5 days. What that means is that if you're coming home to vote, ladies and gentlemen, you need to be here on. I'm sorry, you need to be here by the 31st of October. Right? If you're coming in to vote, get to St. Vincent before the 31st of October to be eligible to vote. Right? Now, let me see here again. Persons in isolation, which would basically be the persons who have tested positive for the coronavirus. Yeah? You will not be permitted to vote. I'm sorry. But if you tell me who you want to vote for, I go vote for you. Hey, but it's a first come, first serve kind of thing, right? Guys, look, they also say, my source also reported that they've agreed to extend the voting time. You see, I tell you? So that the persons in quarantine would be able to get out and get their vote on without mingling with, the regular population. Right? Yeah, we're making way for the vehicle to pass. Don't worry yourself. Right? So they would extend that by a half an hour. And that was agreed to by everybody that was in the meeting this morning. Remember I told you that was the PM, the CMO, somebody from, we think, the Christian Council, the political party, the NDP, and of course the electoral office personnel. Now, the next thing that you need to know is that Madam Supervisor of Election intimated that the number of persons who are in quarantine and are currently eligible to vote is actually in somewhere in the hundreds. Exactly where that is, we do not quite know just yet, right? But she undertook to basically work on supplying a specific list to name who these persons are and where they're located. That kind of thing. So guys, this is how we do it. Another day in the life of a Vincy voter. We will bring you a few more episodes before November 5th because there's so much more you need to know about. But just in case, you're looking for any little bit of information that we don't provide, remember the website, svgelectoraloffice.gov.vc. Is that it? That it? Right. I remember it. At least I remember something. Go check it out, man, and see what's what. Make sure your name is on the list, etc., etc., etc. Remember, it is your vote. It is your voice. It is your choice. So go vote, man.